stored on this computer. Okay, so no problem here. Just everybody take some time to join in while I pull up stuff. All right. Again, I'm sorry for starting late today. All right. Today isn't going to directly talk about any of the today isn't going to talk about precisely any of the tracks. Instead, I'm going to talk about the final. I plan on lowering the final exam to the credit of the final exam to like somewhere to 15 to 10% of the overall grade, rather than and moving that the final grade project up accordingly. So just because of the way this semester has been working, and because I think that's easiest for me to get by with. Now, with regards to that also, today we're going to talk about a topic that will be on the final exam that you don't have to use, but it's going to be a problem on the final exam that I definitely will tell you about. And I want to give you all the tools because it is a real life kind of exercise. So let's go ahead and get this started on the road. 76 people, right? I hope you had a restful weekend after such a hectic week last week. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you, and I find out when the final exam is the same way you do, which is I go Temple final exams schedule. And then I go over here and then I click the fall. And then this one's a bit tricky because technically we right, this is 4 credit hours, right? Let's see. Well, first, do we have a common final? First thing to check for this. No, we do not have a common final, right? And then, yes, tonight the grade should update on Runestone. I kept trying to run the grader and kept getting interrupted by various things. It's been a week. Okay, so now let's go ahead and yes, the final exam is going to be done just like any. No, it's going to be the exam is going to be on Canvas. It's going to be on Canvas, mainly because that's easiest for me to do. Okay. It'll be a standard Canvas exam. Your coding answers, you're going to just drop them into a text box. Okay. So let's go ahead and just talk about that. The final exam is when? So what's time our class? Our class is from 2 to 3 Tuesday, Thursday, right? 2 to 3:20 on Tuesday, Thursday, from 1 to 3. Yes, I know it says it's a 3 credit hour, but this is the time that fits for us. And we're technically a 3 lecture hour, 1 lab hour. So that kind of makes sense why we'd be under the 3 lecture hour. So it's on Tuesday, 12:15 from 1 to 3 p.m. The only, I plan on making it, if not necessarily easy, then something you are going to be very prepared for. In fact, today I want to talk about one of the problems that I plan on putting on the exam. It's one of my favorite problems that we can talk about in computer science, but we'll get there in a bit. The only thing I just want to mention a couple things with regards to exam logistics. So of course it's going to be, the final exam is going to work the same way as the exams on Runestone, which is that we have this, which is, so first off, I've been very light about doing the late penalty, but for the final exam I will, which is that you've got these 2 hours to do the final exam. After it's 2 hours, it's going to be 0.1% off per minute, which means that you get 6% off. It's an hour late. If you need to take an extra hour, then you can take an extra hour to do it. The final exam will be proctored in the sense that I will be available to answer your questions on the chat, right? So you'll all log into Zoom at the same time. No need to keep your camera on or anything like that, right? I am just available to answer your questions. Make sense? The exam won't be able to be taken before that time, but if you need to meet, but if you have questions, I can answer your questions while you're in chat while you're taking it, right? And then after 3 p.m., the exam will start getting marked late. Okay, so but otherwise it's going to be exactly the same as doing it, the quizzes on Runestone. It's just going to be a bit, I found that I can't really tell when things are coming in late on Runestone with regards to quizzes very easily. So that's the reason I'm going to do it on Canvas, because with the final exam, I want to be a bit stricter about the late penalty. But again, the late penalty is it's something I've been doing in the data structure class. It's been very successful. It's not going to be something to stress out about. That exam, it's basically, you can have as much time as you want on this exam, or as much time as you need on the exam. So if you're totally freaking out, that should make you that. Also, again, I'm going to go over the questions that we're going to be doing, or one of the questions we're going to be doing today. As far as, is it open note, right? Yes, it's exactly the same as basically your regular quizzes. You just can't communicate with other people like you shouldn't have been with quizzes. So, so just keep that in mind. So this will be Tuesday, 12/15. That is the last week of final exams, the second to last day of final exams. So the only thing to note is that I find most students are exhausted and completely burnt out at that point. I mean, of course, that kind of like implies that you're not already burnt out this month, right? Right. So, you know, but like generally people are completely done by Tuesday. So just keep that in mind, that if you need to perform well on the final, to study. If you need to, if you can't take this final at this time, or this final at this time, due to like you have to make a flight or something, this happens all the time during a regular semester when I have international students who basically said, look, the only time I can make if I don't take this flight home that occurs at this time, it's going to cost me $1,000 more to get home, right? And I'm like, well, that's no problem. I'll go ahead and schedule you for a different day, right? So if there's some kind, so as long as you let me know well in advance, we can rearrange that time for you so you can take it at a different time, okay? Also, since many of you are freshmen, you should know, see this clause over here. Instructors are encouraged to work out individual accommodations with students who have more than 2 examinations scheduled in one day. That means that under no circumstance, that's a polite way of saying, that's just a polite way of saying you should not take more than 2 exams in one day. If you have 3 exams in one day, you need to tell somebody to move in terms of final exams. Okay. And of course, I am more than willing to move and make time for you. Okay. So, final exams also cannot be scheduled during the study days or the last week of class. So you should know, so you should keep that in mind. The study days, right? You have that hanging. So you have the last week of classes, which is going to be after Thanksgiving. Then you have the hanging Monday. Then you have 2 study days, and then the final exam starts on the Wednesday. That's the final exam period. So that's how final exams typically work. You cannot, instructors are not allowed to do this. If they do this, contact your dean. Hi, Happy Feet. Hi. Okay. Oh, yes, you are a good girl. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so that's with regards to the final exam. So let's go ahead and talk about one of the most useful tools. And I think I need to talk about it in terms of like the kind of problems that that people have occurred in the past. So I need to talk about, so today we're going to talk about a bit about Florida and also about the before times. So first off, for those of you who are, I'm aware that there are a lot of people who are not, who did not grow up in the United States. So anybody who was born in the United States, would you care to elaborate on how people from other states think about people from the state of Florida? Anyone? Any takers?
Every redneck story comes out of there. Not to be mean or anything.
Yeah. Anybody want to talk about, and then there's a trope we have called Florida Man. Anybody want to elaborate on Florida Man?
All the news stories, they all start with Florida Man does something crazy.
Right, something crazy. Right. If we look on Wikipedia, actually, we get a, and I swear this has relevance to the class. Florida Man is an internet meme popularized in 2013 with the phrase Florida Man taken from various unrelated news articles describing people who hail from Florida. So it is humorous, right? Look up Florida man in your birthday to find out you're Florida man. Right. And I'll get to that. And Vinny is completely correct, actually. I'm going to get to that in a second. So there are, let's see, Emma, what did Emma say? Florida's almost how the US is to the world. That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah. Florida is a very both geographically diverse state as well as a culturally diverse state. A lot of people move to Florida. There's a lot of different populations in Florida. A lot of people, Florida is a very diverse, very large, very rich, very popular state. That's where you go. I mean, so let's see what's in Florida. So what all is in Florida that's awesome, right? What is awesome in Florida? No income tax is awesome, yeah. Disney's in Florida. So there's that. The weather is fantastic. Don't we launch stuff from Florida? Like into space? Yeah. So there's a lot of awesome stuff in Florida. So and also the weather's nice. So a lot of people end up, and without any income tax, people end up moving to Florida. It's a very attractive place to move. So you get this very diverse population. Now, Florida man is partly a result of that highly diverse population, but also because of Florida's sunshine laws. Which is, yeah, Florida Sunshine Law, Florida man. So you can see that over there. But basically, let's go ahead and search for the more stuff. Open access. Okay, Florida open access wiki, or is it open records? I think it's open. Yeah, open records law. There we go. So freedom of information legislation, Florida. So it is the policy of this state that all state, county, and municipal records shall at all times be open for personal inspection by any person. So that basically means, here's the definition of what a public record is, which is pretty much anything that the government has. Data processing software, tapes, books, maps, letters, papers, documents, sound recordings, films, any kind of agency. And the idea here is that basically it's very easy to look up stuff in Florida. See also Florida man on the Wikipedia page, right? The idea here is that Florida has very, very awesomely transparent freedom of information laws, which basically means that it's very easy for any kind of journalist to go into the police department records and look up what kind of crazy news is going to catch your attention on the headlines, right? So if we look over here, we see that Miami Times News claims that the Miami New Times claimed that freedom of information laws in Florida, those aforementioned things, make it easier for journalists to get that information about those arrests. CNN, basically suggest it's a combination of that public records accessed by journalists, so journalists are easily able to report again. The relatively high and diverse population of the state, so lots of people, lots of different people. Weather makes people do crazy things. And of course, just like everywhere in the United States, a lack of mental health funding. So Florida has this transparency laws, which actually kind of influenced the way that government worked for a while. In fact, if we look at, so let me take us back to the, so now I'm going to sneak us into our computer science problem. So you may remember that there was a contentious election recently. And of course, I'm talking about the election of 2016. So back in 2016, there were a number of, multiple people ran for the Republican nomination for president. So about 17 people, right? So anybody remember who was the leader on the ticket or basically the presumed leader, when everybody was saying, oh, this person's going to win the Republican nomination, no sweat. Not Ted Cruz, although a good guess. Not
Jeb.
Mr. Rubio. What?
Jeb.
Jeb. That's correct. Jeb Bush. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jeb Bush is, because maybe you weren't locked into politics at the time, or weren't raised in the United States, this is Jeb Bush. He was the 43rd governor of Florida, right? But he's also the brother of George W. Bush, so the former president, the son of the former president H.W. Bush, and again, governor. So he was he was kind of seen as like the Republican shoo-in, and everybody was predicting that it was going to be Bush versus Clinton because dynasties and that kind of thing. So that didn't turn out, but his campaign was very interesting. I mean, as governor, you can see he was in office from 1999 to 2007, which was like during those years, basically went from kind of the internet being something that you had access at school and some people had, to like the internet being widespread and government starting to put their websites on online, and those kind of things happening, like the original very boring hyperspace websites. So Please Clap is a meme associated with Jeb Bush, which was basically at the tail end of his campaign, where he delivered a line and then he said to the audience, please clap. It was kind of like the last nail in the coffin for his presidential run. It's a meme. You can look it up. It's an old meme, but it checks out. So anyway, so he announced his presidential candidacy back in 2015, and again, he did a lot of that based off of, well, I was successfully governor of a large, diverse state. Again, as Emma put it, basically the state that the U.S. views like the rest of the world views the U.S. So he said, okay, I'm going to do that. And I was also known as like the e-governor because I really adopted the electronic media thing. We have these transparent laws, we're all big on information. We're big on being able to, share information. And I'm going to be completely transparent, and there was this whole scandal with Hillary Clinton's emails and stuff. Not going to get into it, but Jeb Bush was like, well, I'm going to go and preemptively release all my emails. Not necessarily because of that, but anyway, if we look, Jeb Bush emails, this brings up a story from 2016 or 2015. Jeb Bush dumps emails, including social security numbers of Florida residents online. Now, I'm not picking on Jeb Bush because of any partisan animosity. Okay. I'm not doing this because of any partisan animosity. If any other candidate did this, I would have chosen that candidate. But this is like a perfect example. But I love taking things from the real world and being able to show you what we did. Yes, Florida man strikes again in the byline. So he decided to publish hundreds of thousands of emails sent to him during his time as governor of Florida to show how he interacted with citizens. And believe it or not, people do email governors and senators and representatives for real important things. For instance, if you've been accidentally declared legally dead, okay, a thing that can happen, by the way, that basically means you don't exist as a person anymore. And so one of the few ways to really cut through that red tape is to basically get in contact with your governor / representative / senator, So people do email their governors, representatives, their federal officials, their state officials to help cut through red tape sometimes. So here, in the spirit of transparency, I'm posting my emails as governor. Some are funny, some are serious, some I wrote in frustration. But they also they were never redacted, which was an issue. And as you can see, jebbusemails.com/home is down at, but let's take a look at some of these emails. These were redacted by by the news agency, which responsibly did this. Dear Governor Jeb Bush, RE, here's my social security number. This is to regard to the facts regarding employment at House Hope of Atlanta. Blank is a battle part of our boys programs. We have dealt with this person, right? Another email on behalf of a healthcare representative shown below contains the information about a child with life-threatening medical condition. It has their all this information: home state, phone number, social security number, healthcare identification number. Again, this is all about, can you please help us? Please help us get this child into surgery so that we can save this child's life, right? Reasonable things that desperate people do, like, please help me, right? As Bush notes in the signature of many emails, Florida has very broad records law, and your communications may therefore be subject to public disclosure. However, social security numbers in particular are protected. Now, so this was a bit of a mini scandal, but considering how crazy the world seemed in 2015, how innocent we were back then, that didn't really register. So again, the before time was a different time. However, this is actually a computer science problem, or rather a programming problem, which is that a lot of these kind of things here, the cell phone numbers, the social security numbers, those are things that can be automatically redacted by someone who's skilled in computer science, someone who knows a bit of programming. And the specific type of programming we're going to be talking about today is regular expressions. And in case you haven't gotten the hint, this will be one of the problems I give on every final exam for 1051. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Specifically, it typically comes in this format. Here's a file which includes some fake social security numbers. Please write a program which reads this file and outputs a new file with all the social security numbers redacted. So let's talk about social security numbers. Now, again, we have a lot of people. Yeah, it's actually much easier than the credit card lab because, so what word? Define which word? Redacted. Removing. So you see how things are blanked out on my page? All these numbers are blanked out. That's redacted. So that might be putting like censored in it, or removed, or redacted, and that might be put in brackets, right? So like, for instance, it might look like, I'm going to send it in chat. Redacting something might look like this, where you replace it with this in the text, right? So in chat, it looks like that, redacted, right? Sometimes you might replace it with stars instead, right? But there's different ways of redacting it. It's just a simple way of indicating to the reader, there was something here, we removed it because reasons. Okay, so let's talk about social security numbers for a bit. Somebody asked, is it going to be similar to the credit card lab? It's actually much easier than the credit card lab because social security numbers were created a long time ago, much earlier than credit card numbers. So they don't have something like a checksum. They don't have a way of like taking the individual digits and adding them together and multiplying them to figure out, hey, is this a valid social security number? Social security numbers are older than that. And they were originally never meant to be used for US identification purposes. But they've kind of become our de facto national ID. Again, this may not make sense to a lot of people who did not grow up in the US, but because we have a federalized system in the United States, there's basically been a cultural kind of rejection of a national ID, of a federal form of ID. So that's led to your social security number kind of becoming your de facto federal ID. Okay. So that's why why social security numbers not being revealed is kind of an important thing. Okay. So now how do we go ahead and remove social security numbers? Well, what is what is the form of a social security number? Like what?
Numbers, 2 numbers, 4 numbers.
Yeah. So 3 numbers, 2 numbers, -4 numbers, 324. right? Basically 3 numbers, 4 numbers, and 3 numbers, 2 numbers, and 4 numbers. So let's go ahead and do desktop. Let's go ahead and do social.py. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to go ahead and share my GUI with you guys. Happy Feet, it's becoming very hard to have you on my lap. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know, betrayal.
Happy Feet.
All right, so
You want on the couch?
let's go ahead and share Visual Studio Code. Here we go. So first off, basically saying, hey, where is the social security number in a text is kind of annoying to do if you're not just as a general task. So like find social, or let's see, contains, let's just go with contains social. And basically, I'm not even, it's going to look something like this. For I in, so for I in range text. Oh God, I already hate having to write this. This is annoying. Range text. It's so painful to do something inefficiently when you know the more efficient way to do it. So for each index, what we're going to do is we're going to just basically say letter is equal to text at I, and if letter, let's call it actually character because it may not be a letter, car dot is digit, I believe. Or if car in, let's go ahead and say 0, right? So if it's in what, if it's a digit, right? If it's 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then we need to check the next character. And text of I plus 1 in that. Don't write this down. It's horrible. Please don't. I swear. That's not me being sarcastic, right? I literally mean you are wasting your time if you're writing this down. I am just trying to show you for illustrative purposes just how awful it is to do it this way, but it's possible. And text plus 3, so 3 characters after the beginning, that should be a dash, right? So let's think about it. So I'm not done with it, but I'm just going to end right here because you'll get the point. So if our first character is 0 is a digit, and our second character is a digit, and the third character after that is a digit, and the character after that is a dash, right? And then we would have to check another digit, and then another digit, and then another dash, and then 4 more digits after that. It'd be one long statement, a lot of nested. It's awful is the point I'm trying to say. So there is a better way to do that, and that is regular expressions. Now this lecture may be the most useful lecture you get from me all semester, which is pretty sad in some ways. Because regular expressions are one of the most powerful tools in programming, and they are usable in a lot of applications besides, programming text editors. Regular expressions is like the ultimate, is basically like your find replace functionality going Super Saiyan for you anime freaks out there. It is basically your find replace function on steroids. So let's go ahead and learn. Let's go ahead and take a look at regular expressions. So I'm going to go to a website, one of my favorite websites for learning these things and testing things, called Regexer. Let me go ahead and share again. Sharing my screen or sharing this thing. So Regexer, EXR.com. It's a great website. So regular expressions, and again, I'll zoom in so that we can see it. really you only have to concern yourself with what's in here. Okay. Regular expressions are this small little meta language that work in pretty much every single programming language. Okay. So the way it will work is there are some really cool things you can do with regular expressions. Okay. And then I'll show you. So I'm going to talk about regular expressions in general, and then I'm going to show how to use them in Python. If we don't finish it up today, I'll do it on, I'll go over it in the next lecture as well. I'm just trying to find my chat window here. Why? Okay, there. Yes, so let's go ahead and show you. So a couple things like, so regexer, I can just simply search for the text, the is a regular expression. And literally it's saying, the way it looks at this is that we're going to look for a string that matches the characters T followed by an H followed by an E. Okay. Let's go ahead and do can. Okay. But then regular expressions also has, let's see, do we have any extra things here? No. Let's see. Let's go with TH. Yeah. So we have TH and E. So let's go ahead and use this to see a special functionality of regular expressions, dot. So now look what it matches, TH dot. It's not matching a period. In regular expressions, dot is a special character, meaning anything. So here, THE, THE, TH, end of the line, I believe. Nope, TH space, TH space, TH space. Let's go ahead and look for, let's see. These are different things we can do. A, E, I, O, U, followed by. So there, yes, I know I just kind of jumped ahead. A, E, I, O, U 2. This is also an example of this. It is a functionality you can use with a lot of control, with Control F in some applications that support regular expressions, like almost every single text editor. So what did I just do here? This is a custom character block saying, hey, any single one of these, exactly 2 of them. Seems pretty, so notice it matches anything that's got double vowels. EA, OU, IA, IO, EE, right? So you can already kind of see that this is a lot more powerful. So let's talk about how do we search for like a social security number, right? So what we saw here is that this is one of the more powerful things you can do with regular expressions, the brackets, which is rather than saying I want to search for a single thing, I want to search for one of these things, right? See, it's called a character set. Match any character in here. So I want to match a 0, right? So matching any number. So let's go ahead and do a phone number, 123 456-7890. Let's put in a fake social security number. Fake social security number. Let's go and grab a random one. Not that we need one. All it tells you is what state it's in. So that's it. So notice that each of these individual numbers are matched. If I wanted to find 2 in a row, 2 numbers in a row, I could just do that. So here we've got any number of numbers followed by any number of numbers. So notice that we're matching this pair, this. Notice that it also doesn't match 1, 2, and then 2, 3. It kind of like matches a chunk and moves on from it. So here we can see that. So a social security number is 3 of these things, right? 1, 2, 3, followed by a dash, right? Makes sense? So notice how it matched the first part of the social security number as well as the first part of, say, a telephone number. Make sense? Or if I change it to this, to the way that most telephone numbers look like, 1, 2, 3, it matches this first part, the non-area code part of the telephone number. Okay. So we can see Now, mind you, this is kind of like hard to read. It's pretty bulky. Everybody agrees this looks pretty bulky, right? I will get to that. Cameron asks, wait, can't you do this? And the answer is yes, you can do this. So this is called the quantifier operator. There's awesome things you can do with it. Like you can search for at most, at least, or in between, or exactly. This is the exactly. So we're saying I'd like exactly 3 of the preceding thing. So exactly 3 0 through 9s. But I'm going to go back for a second to go back to this. Everybody agrees this is this looks pretty bulky and hard to read, right? Well, in regular expressions, there's a very common character set. So I'm going to click cheat sheet on here. Very common character classes. You can make your own like this, right? So ABC, any of ABC, any of not ABC. So anything that's not an ABC, accidentally put that in. Anything that's between A and G. So look at that. You can look. So if you did A to Z with the dash, it would search for not an A or a dash or a Z. It would look for A through Z. Useful. But there's built-in ones. /W, /D, and /S. Lowercase. The cases matter. So /D is any numeric character. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So /D, any number. Everybody get that? /D matches any number. So it's the same thing as we were doing for the 0 through 9. Okay, it's just much shorter. Furthermore, there's an inverse functionality. By capitalizing it, we invert it. So it matches anything but a number, which is much less useful, but still useful. So we can rewrite what we just did as /D/D/D. So 3 Ds and then a dash. Okay. And then a social security number, we can just finish off with a couple more /Ds and then 4 more /Ds. And that is a social security number. This is a regular expression that will match any social security number in this format. Right? I suppose it's possible that somebody, yes, you can do it like this. Instead of doing, now somebody asked, instead of doing it like that, can I do it like this? 3 digits followed by 2 digits followed by 4 digits. And the answer is totally. They're just like in programming, there's multiple ways to do things in regular expressions. Now, regular expressions do have a limitation. Warning, serious math ahead, which is that, or rather serious linguistics mass crossover episode here. Regular expressions are the linguistic form of what are called discrete finite automata, which means these can't be any more powerful than what's called a discrete finite automata or a state machine. Essentially, if you've got a flow chart, it can't be any more powerful than following directions in the flow chart. Right? Discrete finite automata. It's a real thing. We don't really cover them until senior year. But basically, this is a discrete finite automata, which simply says, hey, this is entrapping any, this only accepts binary numbers that are in multiples of 3. So in other words, it matches the regular expression. So let me go ahead and create the regular expression first. Oh, I realize I'm not sharing that. Oh, no, I am sharing that. So let's create the, so like it's saying, hey, there's only binary, it only matches binary numbers in sequences of 3. So it's looking for 0, 1, or a 0, 1, or a 0, 1. Right? So here it can be a 1 or let's see. Oh, binary numbers that are multiples of 3, not that come in sequences of 3, but literally multiples of 3. That's a bit harder to explain. So so here, right, basically it's saying, hey, you can do, basically you can go, we'll accept a 0, any number of zeros, because those are multiples of 3, a 1 followed by another 1, which would be 1, 1, which is 3 in binary, or you can follow the flow chart. So this basically goes, and this and what we'll see is that, and what you'll see is that this maps to any kind of regular expression, which is pretty cool. There's, as you can see, there's ridiculously overcomplicated looking math expressions for these things. But again, it can't be more powerful than a flow chart saying, if you're in this state, go to this state. If you're in this state, go to this state. Okay. So there are limitations. So for instance, the biggest limitation, you cannot count parentheses using, or you can't count a indeterminate number of parentheses using regular expressions. You can't say, okay, did I open all the did I close all the parentheses I opened? And what you'll see is that if we add a data structure called a stack, we get to a, let's see, from regular to context free. And then if you add a second stack, you can turn that into a Turing machine or a Turing complete language, so overwhelming stuff over, just kind of like, I wanted to show you that this is like the tip of regular expressions, and using them is just kind of the tip of this mathematical black hole of an iceberg. Okay. So let's go back to using these things. So very powerful over there. Very, very powerful. There's other things over here that you can do, including capturing groups. Gonna get into that later. But we can look for that if we wanted to instead search for a phone number in this format over here. It would look something like this. So some characters, like a parentheses, have special meaning. Right? If I try to search for parentheses, it tells me unmatched open parentheses. Parentheses are used to group things, which I don't necessarily use too often. But what we can do with these is that we can escape the parentheses to actually search for it. So 3 digits, open parentheses, 3 digits, a space, then 3 more digits for a US phone number, followed by a dash, followed by 4 more digits. We can look for that pretty easily. And it'll match only phone numbers. Okay. So regular expressions, again, really powerful tool. And pretty much every single programming language supports regular expressions. So let's go ahead and look at the way Python deals with regular expressions. So Regex Python. So the library that you use is called RE for regex in Python. So stop share. I'm going to go ahead and share my entire screen. Share. Okay, so the entire so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to import Python. Import RE. To basically say, assuming I can spell import, I'll import RE. This will import the regular expression library. Okay, and they have a primer on the syntax and stuff. But what we can do is that it works essentially like this. You compile a regular expression. You create the thing you're looking for is referred to as a pattern. So if I want to look for a social security number here, I'll create a social with socksec pattern. And we'll say, and again, and so I'm going to do something that looks a little weird here. Okay. So hold on a second. Somebody in chat said something to me and I can't, there it is. Oh, okay. Okay, so Pat, so notice over here we've got okay. So notice over here how I did the pattern. I did the exact same Social Security format. 3 Ds, a D, and 4 Ds, right? I did that, but then I did it with an R in front of it. Okay. Does anybody remember? So this means raw string. This says to Python, hey, you remember how you have these things called escape characters? Forget they exist. So basically this will or automatically put in the escapes for me. So right, if I didn't have this, for each of the Ds, I'd have to put in // right? I'd have to do 2 slashes, right? Because to get a slash in a string, I have to do 2 slashes to escape it. That's hard to think. So just remember, use an R for regular expressions. Okay. So now we do that. We get our basically we'll compile it. re.compile the pattern. And we will go ahead and let's see. And so notice it says basically you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. The advantage of doing like this is that you can reuse it. So re.compile. So now this basically creates an object for us to mess around with and find stuff. So I can basically say, hey, dot find all. Let's see, actually, we're trying to say, hey, does it have one? Dot. Let's go ahead and see what does match do. Match checks for a match at the beginning of the string. Search does anything anywhere. So I want to search for somewhere in this string. I want to know if there is somewhere in this text. I want to search for the Social Security number. Okay. So, okay, let's go ahead and see match. So let's go ahead and I have to use regex a lot in different languages, so it's always a bummer to try to remember how it's done. So let's go ahead and do contain social, and I'm just gonna type in random stuff here and run it. And it says none. So, okay, that works. So all I have to do is simply say, hey, if result is not none, so in other words, if it exists, so this is one way we do it. So does not so this one we'll see does not contain this is I've got to print it out. False. And now let's go ahead and plug in a Social Security number. So this is your Social Security number. I'm so sorry for doxing you, but not really, because somebody would have guessed it eventually.
Does it go to the website after that?
Let's go and test this out. My social is blank /n. Please do not steal. And it tells you true or false. Was it able to? Sorry, and this program will figure out true or false. Were you able to find it? Now, if we print out the result, it returns this kind of what we call a match object, which does stuff for me, which is pretty good. Now, in terms of like, how does this help us? there's a couple. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. Let's go ahead and actually see what we can do with this in a bit more detail. So if we look at the RE library, let's assume we don't want to reuse anything. We can do RE dot. So we've got find all, search, find iterator, and match, and sub. So compile, we saw that makes a regular expression matcher that it compiles a pattern. It finds stuff for us. It's basically an object we can reuse again and again and again. Search and match are a bit different. Match looks from the beginning of the string. So if I did match over here, let's see, re.compile. Oh, if I did match over here, you'll notice it says false. It does not contain it. Match starts looking, basically says, hey, does the string start with this pattern? So rather than looking for throughout the entire string, it just basically says, hey, does this string have it from the beginning? So search is a bit more useful because it says it's more like contains. Does it have this anywhere in there? And then let's see. And we can see basically that it runs again the same way. It finds the first one and it's done. So one thing we can do, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this out and put it over here on top so that we can use it. I'm going to just use the RE library like this because it's easier to do it this way. I think it's simpler for you guys. Rather than doing it in the more correct way, it's easier to just kind of show you. Text is equal to that. And now let's go ahead and comment this out. Right? Let's make it easy for us to see. And now let's hear if this one is also your social security number. Again, I'm really sorry. Okay. So here's another way we can do this. Print. So let's go with result is equal to re dot. So I like using this one the most, at least in terms for looking for regular expressions. Find all, and you give it a pattern, the regular expression you want to look for, and then your target, like this. And now let's go ahead and see this one. So this one does like what you would love it to do. And again, every library uses this a bit differently, but notice it gives you a list with all of the social security numbers back.
There's an adult store.
Okay.
There's a crematorium. There's a prison.
Now let's go ahead and look at, but again, what we were aiming to do was to redact things, which is pretty cool. And there's a lot of advanced functionality. I'll tackle that on Thursday, but I wanted to talk about this one, about doing this, just this basic functionality today. Just kind of how could I solve this? So let's go ahead and create a test file. All right, let's stop. So let's go with Alice, and let's go ahead and create the social security number for her. Let's go ahead and create Bob and create a social security number for him, which is going to be.
Billy in general seems to be very happy with the amount
Okay,
of
Carol is right. Just make those up. We are going to go ahead and put it into desktop. We are going to go ahead and call it target.txt. Okay. Target.txt. And now here we go. So let's go ahead and first read that file. Okay, which is fairly straightforward to do. Let's go ahead and again, how do we read a file? Open. We can do open, and the file name was target.txt. Open it in read mode. Okay, so let's open it in read mode. And now again, okay.
Today, real clear photos.
And now what we can do is we can do read to dump it all into our text file as one solid string. Okay, makes sense? And now I just run this and look, it works wonderfully in like in how many lines did it actually take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to find all the social security numbers. Pretty easy to do that. Okay, very, very powerful. Okay, so again, this was just one line to read it all. We got our file object, and when we .read, I just basically combined 2 lines into one there to basically read it and just all at once. And I did read as opposed to read lines because I'm just going to grab all the text over here and just put that out. So now let's go ahead and solve the other part of this, which is replacing those, redacting those social security numbers. So re.sub or substitute takes 3 variables, the pattern, what you'd like to replace the read line. So read dumps it into a string, as Cameron said. Read lines basically dumps each line into a string and puts each of those lines into a list. So so here the result, basically a sub has 3 arguments. It needs the pattern that we're going to use. In other words, the regular expression. So it needs the regex that we're going to use. The replacement. In other words, what are we going to replace the regular expression with? And then target. What are we going to be searching? What are we actually searching for and doing our find and replace mission in? So here, our regular expression is we're going to use the social security pattern. I'd like to replace that with, hey, let's go with, hey, this seems private. Close brackets. The brackets are not necessary, but again, in English, they represent the text has been edited in some way, shape, or form. And then what text do I want to look in? Well, text, which is the file I just opened. We go ahead and replace it, and boom. And now our output is that. All the social security numbers are replaced with that. I could do instead that 5 stars in a row. Or I can do good old redacted.
Maximum amount that you're allowed to get. Okay, and what about the show that you just did?
Okay. Makes sense? So here, right, our output's right here. Very quick kind of target to just kind of erase it. Could I scramble it? I mean, I don't want to necessarily, I suppose I could maybe, but I don't really want to do anything clever. I'll show you, there's some clever stuff you can do, but, well, we're not quite done yet. Because what we have to do is now we want to output a new file that contains all this text. So let's go ahead, and now what we have to do is we have to do a let's go with redacted file is equal to open. So this is going to actually take, so this will take 2 more lines. Hey, Laser. You wish I could play hide and seek with you? I will play hide and seek with you when I'm done with my students, okay? So let's go ahead and Laser, I'm teaching, not piano, not right now. Okay. Okay, remove W we open it in write mode. And now all I have to do is say redacted file.write the result. And then redacted file.close. This will also, right, the reason I did it as read is that it doesn't remove any so here we go. Set up a regular expression, do the actual read the file, do all the replacing, output it to a file, run it. Doesn't come up with anything because of course it doesn't. I didn't ask it to. Instead, we're going to go ahead and go to this file. And now you can see, there you go. Right. And I didn't overwrite our original file. That seems unwise. So it never really should rewrite something while you're overwrite something while you're reading from it. It seems like you're asking for trouble at that point. But hello. All right. So yeah, regular expressions, very, very powerful. Right. So it may not be a social security number I ask you to redact on the exam. Probably will be, but it might not. It could be something like a telephone number or a student number. I'm never going to ask you to try to redact an email. Anybody know why? Actually, redacting emails is probably easier if you want to over-redact. Emails are actually really hard and really complicated. So here is an email, validated email regex. Here we go. Email regex.com. Email address, regular expression that 99.99% works. You should never do something like this. This is horrible and mind-bending, and it is kind of it's awful. Here is the regex for emails. And yes, it looks like gibberish because it kind of is. Let's see. Oh, so this is everything before the @ and everything that's after the @ Yeah, it's gross. You pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much it for the final exam. If you, with that regard to that question. So there is no perfect email regular expression, hence the 99.9%, because there's a lot of valid things that you can put before. For example, how many of you use Gmail? A lot of you, right? I have a Gmail account. It is, which basically I forward everything from school to there, So here's my Gmail account, profandrewrosen@gmail.com. Okay. So Gmail, it takes advantage of a couple of things internally that you can do. First off, where you put your periods in Gmail doesn't matter. This is the same email address in terms of Gmail. You can put the dots anywhere you want beforehand. Okay, so it doesn't really care. Oh, but there's more you can do. If I'm signing up for yes, you can successfully get email sent to you with the extra dots. Because it's sometimes easier to say dots. But suppose, for example, you want to sign up for a email that from a site. The site's asking for your email. It's got something you really want, but you really don't want to get spammed. Well, all I can do is I can actually use this. plus spam. Plus, and then anything else gets ignored again, and it gets sent to you, and it will still get sent to you. So this will get sent to Professor Andrew Rosen at gmail.com. But the plus spam is kind of a personal marker to let me know that it's spam, and I can filter it out. Or if you're interested in seeing like, hey, is this website going to sell my information to somebody else? You can give it like a unique information, like you sign up for Facebook, for instance. And you can see that. So incidentally, did you know that plus is a valid character in email addresses? That's part of the reason why those are why it's so again complicated to write those email addresses. In fact, for one of my projects that I did in my graduate networking class, I wrote a program and it successfully replaces the reply to address. It sends out an email and says, by the way, the email that you got this from is at 419 at scammer.com, which is again is code for 419 is the type of like, hi, I'm a Nigerian prince. Hi, I'm a widow. Hi, I'm a person. I'm a lawyer. I'm a barrister who's got a lot of money that I need to questionably smuggle out of the country with questionable legality. And for a nominal fee, I'll give it all to you. So yeah, but regular expressions are extremely powerful. They have limitations, but they are extremely powerful. I think I got through pretty much everything I want to tackle. Now, the reason I bring this up is that these are extremely powerful tools. They don't really have a proper place in the computer science curriculum. We don't really introduce it anywhere at a specific point that's really useful. So I love introducing it here. Typically, if we aren't doing a final project, I go into much more detail about these things and how to use them. But I think that what we're going to do for Thursday is that I can talk a bit about the way you can interact Python with HTML, and I might check in with I might check in with you guys about how your projects are going. I have a lot of stuff to do. I plan on grading an exam tonight and also reading through the proposals that you've submitted. Also, if you like watching scammers get tortured, you should probably check out Kit Boga because he's amazing. Jim Browning is amazing. Now, is there a limit for how long the video should be for your final project? Probably no more than 2 minutes. Right. 2 to 3 minutes I would put at the limit. What about the Mario? Still working on the Mario, but again, the Mario has its all the other stuff has their due dates. Yes, best projects don't have to do a final. But I don't plan on making the final. Again, I'm trying to make sure that the final isn't too intensive because by the time you get to my final, you're going to be burnt out. So, because again, implying that you're not already burnt out. Right. So again, this semester is rough. I have a feeling that next semester will be rough as well, just not as rough. Are we going to have review problems? I might do some review after. I might do some review on the last day of class once I have a better idea of what's actually on the final. So, but again, it shouldn't be too arduous. We're talking like maybe like Yes, the final has to be during finals week unless I push it way up front. So I expect no more than 5 problems for the final. One of which will be like something like the Social Security problem, where basically you take in an email and read it. So let's see. So I know 2 problems will be on the final. So let me tell you. So yeah. Well, one I just told you about, which is read a file, remove all the Social Security numbers or whatever it is from it, and then output it into, and then output the redacted file. There should be due dates for the track already up. Okay. And then let's see the other problem for the final, right? I'm sorry, I was watching chat. The other problem that I guarantee will be on the final is that what I typically do is I introduce something in Python that we have not gone over, tell you how to use it, and then ask you to use it. It's not as hard as it seems, because it's meant to make your job very, very easy. Cameron, are you in math? You'll be fine. If you're in math, you already know it. And if you're not in math, it's one of the easier things from math. So it's one of the things from math that has nothing to do with numbers. It's great. All right. So anyway, it'll be something like that. And then let's see, we do with, let's see. And then I'll probably have something related to dictionaries on there. Yeah, if I were to do 3 problems, it would be a Monte Carlo approximation. Give me the statistics on something. Give me so like, here's a scam game. Give me the statistics. Look for Social Security numbers, and then the unknown thing. But it'd be a real thing that you'd be able to look up documentation for. No, it's going to be on Canvas. Yes, I'll give you an outline. Okay. So I need to grade things, and I also need to play hide and seek with laser. So, yeah, I know, unfair. It's